So, you've decided you want to own an offshore oil rig. Maybe money isn't the issue, but figuring out how to actually buy one is another story. Just like shopping for an exotic supercar, the first step is looking at the available options and their price tags. The offshore drilling industry offers 5 major categories of rigs. They aren't separated only by cost. The real difference is the kind of waters they are built to operate in and how deep they can drill. The most affordable choice is the jackup rig. This design stands on 3 massive legs that rest directly on the ocean floor. It's intended for shallow water drilling, handling depths of roughly 120 meters. Depending on the model and specifications, these rigs usually cost somewhere between $180 million and $250 million. They're dependable, proven, and relatively inexpensive, but their biggest drawback is obvious. They simply can't work in deep water. But let's assume shallow water drilling isn't what you're after. If you're planning to reach much deeper reserves, you'll need something more advanced, a semi-submersible rig. Unlike a jackup, this platform floats on large underwater pontoons, while heavy anchors keep it securely positioned. These rigs are capable of drilling in water as deep as 1 kilometer, and buying one generally requires an investment of around $500 million to $800 million. Still not deep enough? Then it's time to move up to a drill ship. Think of it as a specialized ship with a massive drilling system installed right through its center. Because it's fully mobile, a drill ship can operate in ultra-deep waters that jackups and semi-submersibles simply cannot reach. Purchasing one will set you back just under $1 billion. Now, if you're already playing in billionaire territory and none of those options seem impressive enough, there's one more level above them, the FPSO. The name stands for floating production, storage, and offloading. Although the easiest way to understand it is to imagine an oil refinery floating in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't just extract crude oil. It also processes, stores, and loads it directly onto tankers without ever returning to shore. Owning one typically costs somewhere between $2 billion and $3 billion. There's also another category. Although realistically, you probably couldn't buy one, even if your bank account had $3 billion to buy one, even if your bank account allowed it. These are fixed offshore platforms, massive permanent structures built directly onto the seabed. One famous example is Norway's Troll A, rising an incredible 472 meters, making it one of the largest structures ever constructed by humanity. Platforms like these are custom-built for specific oil fields and almost never become available for sale. Let's say you've chosen the rig that fits both your ambitions and your budget. The next question is obvious. Where do you actually buy one? In general, there are 3 different paths. The first is also the most straightforward. Order a brand new rig directly from the shipyard. Some of the world's biggest builders include Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea, Samsung Heavy Industries, and Singapore's Keppel. You place your order, wait anywhere from 2 to 4 years, and eventually receive a factory-fresh drilling rig. The downside? Besides the enormous price tag, you'll also have to be patient. Building something this massive simply takes time. But suppose you're an experienced investor who doesn't want to wait several years or pay full price. In that case, the secondary market becomes far more attractive. Buying a used drilling rig works much like purchasing commercial real estate or pre-owned aircraft. Major offshore drilling companies regularly sell older equipment whenever they're modernizing their fleets. Some of the largest owners in the world include Transocean, Valaris, and Noble Corporation. As they replace aging assets with newer ones, older rigs often become available for purchase. A perfect example happened in September 2025. Transocean sold 4 ultra-deepwater drill ships: Discoverer Clear Leader, Discoverer Americas, Deepwater Champion, and Discoverer India. These weren't outdated relics either. Every one of them had been built between 2009 and 2011, making them relatively modern by industry standards. The problem wasn't their age. It was the fact that they had remained inactive for anywhere from 5 to 9 years. Keeping expensive drilling rigs idle for that long became so costly that Transocean ultimately recorded a staggering $1.9 billion loss on the transaction. The identity of the buyer was never officially revealed, although the deal itself reportedly took place in Greece. So yes, purchasing secondhand equipment can save an enormous amount of money, but surprisingly, there's an even cheaper strategy. That strategy is buying rigs through bankruptcy auctions. This is where investors capitalize on someone else's financial collapse. Following the 2014 to 2016 oil market crash, dozens of offshore rigs were auctioned off for only 10 to 20% of what they had originally cost. One of the industry's biggest names, Seadrill, filed for bankruptcy twice within just 4 years. Rigs that had originally cost close to $1 billion suddenly changed hands for around $150 million. At first glance, it sounds like the bargain of a lifetime, and in many cases, it is. But there's one critical catch. A catch that can turn a $150 million rig into something even more expensive than buying a brand new $1 billion rig in the first place.